Hi everybody, welcome to the Purdue University College of Pharmacy first ever live chat night. We're so excited that you've joined us tonight. We are happy to answer any and all of your questions. We've got a great panel tonight and we'll be introducing them here in just a second. My name is Holly Keckler and I am the Associate Director of Recruitment for the College of Pharmacy, and with me tonight are my three panelists. So I'll let you introduce yourself, say where you're from, what year you are in the program, and your hometown, please.
Okay, so my name is Ernesto Munoz. My hometown is here in West Lafayette, not very far from Purdue University, and I'm a PP1, so it's my first year here.
My name's Annie Pham. I'm a second-year professional pharmacy student, and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Hi, my name is Megan Breda. I am from Dyer, Indiana, so up in Northwest Indiana or the region, and I am a third professional year student, so that basically makes me a super senior.
Okay, great. So we're so happy to have you all here tonight. Let's start off just talking a little bit about how you chose pharmacy. How did you get interested in pharmacy, and what made you decide that this was going to be a good fit for you? What were you kind of thinking as you were a high school senior and thinking about careers?
Okay, so as I was a senior, I was very weird because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I always knew that I wanted to do something, maybe with medicine or something like that, but I think having Purdue University so close and looking at some of its options, pharmacy was the one that stuck out to me, and it seemed like the one that was the most interesting, so that's really why I chose it, and I thought it was a great fit actually now, looking back. So.
Okay, good. Annie, what about you?
Well, I always had that strong math and science background, and that basically led me to the STEM field. So at first I was thinking computer science would be just like my dad, but I realized I didn't want to be in a cubicle all day programming. I wanted to be out on the front lines helping people, and I thought the medical field was the best way to do that, and the most accessible healthcare professional to me was my pharmacist. So I figured that'd be the right route.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Annie. I started off with an interest because of my dad in not electrical engineering, but in engineering in general. I had a passion for chemistry and for math, and so I thought chemical engineering was for me. And then I realized that physics was not my favorite subject. And I ended up shadowing a hospital pharmacist, and I fell in love with just the connections that they were making with their patients and with the other healthcare providers on the floor, and they were still utilizing that passion for chemistry and math, but just in a way that I had never really known about before. So that really sparked my interest in pharmacy, and now being so far into the program, I really realized that it is the field that I want to pursue as a career and that I really enjoy.
Okay, good. And again, please feel free to write in any questions. We're happy to talk about just about anything tonight. We've got some really good experienced panelists tonight, and from different areas, different years of the program, so we've got lots of different experiences. So following up a little bit about how you chose pharmacy, you both mentioned that you were interested in being a part of that healthcare team and being accessible. So how did you choose pharmacy over another area of healthcare? What made you think that this was going to be the best fit as opposed to some other healthcare areas?
Do you want to?
Well, like I said, I chose pharmacy partially because it was the most accessible healthcare provider that I had ever seen. I always hated waiting at the doctor's office for that 15-minute appointment. I just felt like I couldn't get that quality time I needed with my doctor, and I felt like I really wanted to be there for my patients, and I felt in a retail setting like CVS or Walgreens, I'd really be able to take the time to go out into an OTC aisle and talk to my patients about some medications.
Yeah, pharmacy for me, the first thing I thought of was there's a lot of job security because there are so many opportunities in so many different settings, and I'm learning more and more about other settings that are available to this day, but there was job security in it, and I knew that there were very few other programs that I could get my doctorate in such a shorter amount of time that I wouldn't be spending that much more time outside of a typical undergrad career obtaining that doctorate and working towards it, and I was still going to have what I saw as the benefits of what other professions might do.
Okay, good. All right, please feel free to send in any questions. We're happy to answer any of those questions for you tonight. Do you each want to talk about where you are as far as your exploration in the career path of pharmacy. Ernie, knowing that this is still just your freshman year of college, your path of exploration is pretty much just beginning, whereas Megan, you're a little bit further along. But I think
Just a
maybe
little.
sometimes the things that you might have in common is you may both be still just as unsure of what you might want to do. So do you each want to talk about what area of pharmacy that you're thinking that you're interested in, at least right now, today, this week?
So I currently work, like I said, I work at an independent pharmacy, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. So right now, looking at working there, I really like it. I really do like the atmosphere there. Just because I know, like at a CVS or retail pharmacy, the pharmacist might not personally know the patients coming in because there's so many of them. But at an independent pharmacy, I really like how the pharmacist knows their patient well. Like he knows them by their first name as soon as they walk in. So I really like that feel for it there. And so as of right now, I really like that. I know I still have to explore different options there, but that's the one that seems to stick out the most to me right now.
Okay, good. Annie, what about you?
I'm kind of split right now, honestly. Part of me wants to go into a retail pharmacy, just at a chain like Kroger, CVS, whatnot. I really enjoyed the rotation that I had at Walmart in August, so I really like that impact, being able to have that patient interaction and be in the community. But then also, I'm interested in ambulatory care, which is basically working in an outpatient clinic as a pharmacist and being able to maybe prescribe with the doctor's protocol. But I really got interested in that from an elective I took called Underserved Patients. And so I got to work at a couple clinics that were underserved, about 30, 45 minutes away from campus. And I really got to see how pharmacists can make an impact in settings where there's a physician shortage.
Okay, great.
Yeah, as the older student who should know what they want to do with their life, I'm still currently exploring. A lot of my career exploration in terms of shadowing opportunities came from more hospital settings. I've worked in a hospital for about 4 years. I've been exposed to compounding pharmacy through one of my IPPE opportunities. So that was a really interesting one. And I'm actually shadowing this spring break in a consulting agency with that they take pharmacy or pharmacy graduates, I should say, into. So I'll get to see another side of pharmacy that I have yet to experience. But as of now, when I graduate, which will be next May, I'm looking at pursuing a postgraduate residency opportunity in a hospital setting. I really like the interaction, again, like I had mentioned, with healthcare providers and going on rounds with the physicians and the nurses and the healthcare team and working with patients and being on the floor, kind of all hands on deck approach.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about compounding? What is compounding?
So I did not know much about compounding when I was assigned this pharmacy location for my IPPE. And so it's actually really interesting. It's a mix between a retail setting and a little bit of what I do as a hospital pharmacy technician. And so basically patients that include animals as well as humans that need their medications basically specially prepared for them. We make them all by hand and by scratch. And I thought it was very cool. It was very hands-on. And it was something that I didn't realize that pharmacists or pharmacies in general do, because I think when people think about making medications, you think manufacturers and big pharma, but there are still compounding pharmacies that are just known for making those medications that patients might need, either specially formulated or just really personalized for their animal as well.
Okay. And Ernie, are you the independent pharmacy that you're working in? Are they doing some compounding as well?
They do very, very little.
Okay.
They usually buy their the pills that they prescribe come in these large bottles. These large bottles might be from Eli Lilly or any other manufacturer. They do very little that they have there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. And so I think that's a perfect example of every independent pharmacy kind of has their own specialty and they do different things. So okay, great. So Annie, could you talked a little bit about this elective that you took and how it was an ambulatory care elective and how you got to serve some underserved populations. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What does ambulatory care actually mean? And can you talk a little bit more about what was some of the day-to-day experiences that you had in that elective? Because it sounds like you were outside of the classroom, that you were actually traveling and leaving campus.
Yeah, so it was a service learning course. Ambulatory care basically means a patient can walk into our clinic and seek care. That's where ambulatory comes in. At the clinic, the day is super varied based on the patients you see. There's about a half-hour appointment where they see a nurse practitioner or a pharmacist, and we've done everything from a diabetes group talk, just helping people talk out how lifestyle changes and medication changes have been going for them. They have a warfarin clinic where they monitor your INR levels and then change them. A whole bunch of things. I saw a nurse cut open an ingrown toenail. It's just, you see everything in ambulatory care.
And especially in an area where you don't have regular access to physicians, you're getting to see a lot more than what you might in a more urban area.
For sure. Pharmacists definitely have more leeway to do a lot more stuff in these federally qualified healthcare clinics. I think they have a lot more power and autonomy in that setting. They're not necessarily working under a physician, but they're working in collaboration with like a nurse practitioner or something, and I thought that was really neat.
Okay. Well, and so is there a collaborative practice agreement in this type of setting?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about that? What is a collaborative practice agreement, and how does a pharmacist fit into that?
Okay, so a collaborative practice agreement is basically a contract between you and a provider, such as a physician, that basically allows you to prescribe medications, order labs based on some protocol, some pre-agreed upon protocol. And it really gives pharmacists the ability to see their own patients. It's not, you get a referral maybe from the physician, but you get to see patients, have your own appointments with them.
So this is really kind of where we're starting to see the lines kind of blurring between what a pharmacist and a physician has traditionally done, where the pharmacist is starting to kind of take over some of those roles and responsibilities that we've maybe always grown up thinking that, gosh, that's what a doctor does. A doctor prescribes medications or changes medications. And now a pharmacist is starting to do those sorts of things. How does that make you feel as a future healthcare practitioner?
I think it's crazy to see how much healthcare is changing in general. When I was a high school student, I never could have dreamed that this was how I could potentially practice with my future pharmacy degree. I think as we go through the years, I think with how many populations there are that are underserved, there is a physician shortage, I think pharmacists really have a say, and they may be able to advocate for our profession and really change the way healthcare works. And I think that's really neat to be a part of.
Okay, great. Megan, you were talking a little bit about how you are thinking about a residency after graduation. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because like this collaborative practice agreement, I think a lot of people think of physicians, of doctors doing residencies, and pharmacists do those as well. So can you talk about what that process is like, and what do you get out of a residency? What do you learn from that?
Yeah, definitely. So with the term residency, it is very familiar with physicians and doctors and medical students going through it. And it's a very similar process. Since we are getting our doctorate, we're kind of now following that same path that medical students normally do by pursuing a residency. And so what a residency basically is it is a job that you would obtain after graduation, but it's almost like an intense kind of rotation for a year that you are working as a pharmacist. You are licensed and you are practicing, but you're still working under other pharmacists and healthcare professionals within whatever setting you choose to do. And the goal of a residency is really to give you the experience of roughly 5 to 7 years within 1 year. So it's a very fast-paced experience, to say the least, but you gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of hands-on application of what you learned in school or learned on your rotations. You're applying it to your practice, and it really makes you as prepared as possible to be on your own and work as a clinical pharmacist in a hospital or as a medication safety officer. And there's so many paths with residencies that you can pursue, with most people going towards more of a general PGY1, which is just your postgraduate year one residency, which is really just that general broad overview of working in whatever setting you choose, whether it be ambulatory care, like you said, or in a hospital. And then there's fellowships for if you're interested in industry pharmacy. And then if you choose to specialize, and let's say you want to be a critical care pharmacist or an oncology pharmacist, you can go ahead and basically do a residency for a second year, a PGY2, and become specialized in the area, which really just means you are the specialist of that area. You know everything and everything there is to know about whatever you choose to specialize in. So it's a really unique opportunity that with pharmacy, it helps you also be a little bit more competitive on the job market, because you do have that high level of specialized training that you go through before you're truly out on the job market and ready to work on your own.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because
Yeah.
I think this is a major area that pharmacy is really developing and contributing to the profession of healthcare. So it's really exciting to see that. Do you feel like you're going to be prepared to apply for those residencies after graduation?
As hard as it is for me to say yes, because the idea of even graduating at this point is very intimidating, I really do think that I will. I think Purdue does an excellent job at preparing me both academically and professionally, whether it's through organizations or speakers that come to class or networking with our alumni. I feel like there's so many opportunities for me to ask questions and figure out if residency is truly what I want to pursue after graduation. But I think I've been provided with so many resources that I have had my questions answered. I've perfected what will be my application in not even a year, which is a crazy thought. But I truly do feel I will be prepared when it comes to time, and I need to remind myself of that as often as I can before that application comes. I think it's at the end of December.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Again, please feel free to type in any questions. Like I said, we've got a great panel tonight, and we're happy to answer anything that's on your mind. Changing gears a little bit, Megan, you kind of made me think about, you mentioned being involved in different student organizations. Does everybody want to talk about what student organizations they've joined? If you've joined something outside of the College of Pharmacy, as well as your involvement in the College of Pharmacy. So Ernie, why don't you start?
I've joined 3 different clubs here. One of them here was a PPA, which is why I'm here tonight. Which, I'm part of the recruitment committee, so it kind of helps me with getting some of the volunteer hours I will need for my application when I go to apply. One of the other ones was a pre-pharmacy club, which also helps me a lot. It really helps me with those small things that I need to have done for the application. So that's what my focus is with those, is getting those requirements, meeting those requirements for my application, which is, I know it's not their worry, but it is my worry as of right now. So that's where I'm kind of getting my help from.
Okay, all right. And any non-pharmacy organizations at this point?
At this point, no, not yet.
Okay. Well, and I think that's a really good thing that, this is your first year of college, and so it's good to just start off with 1 or 2 student organizations, and then as you kind of get more into things, you can see how much time you can devote towards student organizations.
Yeah.
So give it more time. I'm sure you'll find time to join another organization as time goes on.
Time management is key.
Time management is very key. All right, Annie, what about you?
Well, over the past 4 years of being here on campus, I've been in a bunch of student organizations, both in pharmacy and then outside of the college, so I'll just highlight a couple. Currently, I'm in the student chapter of the American Pharmacists Association here at Purdue. I really like this club because it helps my professional development, and also it helps me practice my pharmacy skills. I've been able to volunteer at health fairs, do blood pressure screening, blood glucose screenings, cholesterol screenings, and I think it's been a great way to get out of the classroom and practice the skills that I've been learning. Beyond that, outside the College of Pharmacy, at the beginning of my college years, I was part of the Boiler Volunteer Network student leadership team. It was a volunteering club. We did both just volunteering opportunities like going to a soup kitchen, just with our club, but we also ran the community action days that Purdue puts on, which is hundreds of students, and we're leading them to various volunteer sites. And I thought that was a really neat way to get involved in the Lafayette community and get volunteer hours, I guess.
Okay, great, thanks. Megan, what about you?
Yeah, similar to Annie, after 5 years of being on this campus, I've also found myself with a laundry list of organizations that I've been a part of and really enjoyed my time with. So in terms of pharmacy organizations, I'm, as along with these two, in pharmacy ambassadors. So getting to talk to potential high school students that may be new Boilermakers in the fall or in the next few years has always been really exciting and rewarding to kind of calm their nerves about the college transition and about Purdue life in general. I'm also involved with Annie in the American Pharmacists Association student chapter, which has been a wonderful experience that luckily it's a professional organization, so it's one that I can start here on campus and then continue with throughout my career. I've also been involved, I am involved, I should say, in Phi Lambda Sigma, which is the Pharmacy Leadership Society, which is all third-year professional students. Now we have some second professional year students. And it's really just about developing and working with our leadership skills, networking with alumni, and that's been rewarding in so many ways. And then outside of the college, I was involved in Greek life here, which for me helped me spread my wings and network with students outside of just pharmacy. I've made some really great friends and contacts through that. I love intramural sports, and so I've also been actively involved in playing the sports as well as being on the intramural student advisory board, as well as the Recreation and Wellness Council. Sorry, the name changed recently, and I always forget about that one. But I've been able to be actively involved in decisions that go on at the co-rec and regarding sports, adding new sports, changing rules, and I've loved sports and played sports my entire life, and so to have that outlet in pharmacy school has been really nice to just kind of have some fun and relax a little bit.
That's good. That's good. It's good to have a balance
Yes.
Outside of class, absolutely. So you're talking about getting connected and kind of networking and finding a group of friends. Think back to your freshman year, both of you, and Ernie, think back 6 months ago. What sort of things did you do to find community, to make friends when you first arrived on campus? Did you know anybody when you first got here? Maybe some of you did, maybe some of you didn't.
I did not know very many people, even if though I lived very, very close. But usually I met some of my best friends now just by going to class. You just sit next to someone you don't really know, and you might have a question during your lecture. Instead of asking the professor, you might ask your friend or the person next to you. And so then from then on, you just you're friends with them from then on. So you just know them, you get to know them, especially with some of my lab classes. You get to pick a partner usually, or sit by someone, and usually the person you sit by, you become very good friends with.
Well, and my guess is because pharmacy, the classes, everybody's taking the same classes, maybe you start to see some familiar faces. Oh, I saw you in biology, and then you might see them again in chemistry lecture, and so you start to see some familiar faces each week.
Yeah.
Okay. Annie, what about you?
Well, being an out-of-state student, I knew absolutely no one when I came to campus, which was daunting but also exciting. Knowing no one made me really have to get out of my comfort zone and make friends. So I actually made a lot of what I think are lifelong friends during my first week on campus during Boiler Gold Rush, which is our freshman orientation week. It was a really great way to make new friends because we were just exploring campus as freshmen together. No one else was really on campus, and we got to do fun activities at the co-rec, hear great speakers, and I just really think that Purdue is a great family. Everyone really is friendly. Everyone wants to get to know you as long as you're willing to branch out and be friendly.
Okay.
Yeah, also a lot of friends that I made were because of Boiler Gold Rush. They ended up being a few girls on my floor, and to this day we still hang out and make time for one another and truly do develop those lifelong friendships. I think participation in organizations too. I was a part of Pre-Pharmacy Club, and that helped me connect with some of my fellow pre-pharm students, and we'd sit together in classes then and find each other in labs. And just as long as you're open and willing to make those connections, I think that's the biggest thing. I'm a natural introvert at heart, and so knowing that my high school graduated about 800 people, and I still swear that all those 800 people came to Purdue because everywhere I'd look I'd see someone from my high school. It was hard to break out of that comfort shell that I had made and just talk to the people that I knew instead of going up and meeting new people and making new friends. But I have found that some of those friendships that I just broke out of my shell for a little bit just to say hi or ask that question during class. I've really made some great friends and great classmates too, that we would help each other study and whatnot, and some of them have graduated now and we still keep in touch. And so just being open to it, or developing those relationships and just talking to someone that you don't know is all about the college experience.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good point, being open to it, because you have to remember that everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's new, and whether you are coming from a high school that's 5 minutes away, or you're coming from a hometown or a high school that's 10 hours away, everybody's got new people to meet. So that I think that makes a big difference. We've got a couple of questions that have come in, so let's take those. Our first question is, does the pre-pharmacy program accept AP credit? So does anybody want to answer that? And think back to any AP credit that you may have applied, and would you do that again? Would you use that AP credit, or would you just take the course again?
I would use the AP credit. I had a couple AP credit that transferred over. One of them actually was through Ivy Tech with the speech class.
Okay.
That kind of transferred over, and I would actually use that instead of actually retaking the class,
Okay.
just because it is, like I said, time management will become an issue once, it becomes key because you have a lot of stuff going on. And so, like now, having less classes maybe than some of my classmates because of those AP credits is very beneficial, because, they are a little more overloaded than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I think it helps a lot.
Well, in a course like Com 114, or our public speaking requirement,
Mm-hmm.
that's a terminal course. It's one semester,
Mhm.
and so yes, that's a great idea.
Mhm.
If you can come in with that credit, then great.
Mhm.
But what about some AP credit? Did anybody take some AP classes, and did you apply that credit at all?
I took so many AP classes in high school, it was ridiculous. I came in with over 30 credits from AP, and some of them applied to my major, some of them didn't. But AP English Language got me out of the English composition course. AP Statistics got me out of the statistics course. I took credit for my AP Biology and instead pursued a biology minor, took Biology 3 and 4 while my classes were taking the beginning levels. There's a lot of classes you can kind of get out of the way to make room for elective courses, to do something fun. Just take that one fun elective. I took psychology, I took biomedical ethics, just because it fit my fancy that day. But it's also really nice to lighten your course load as well. I was taking like 12 credit hours on some semesters, so I could really focus on the really tough courses. So I thought it was very beneficial. But then again, calculus I took again, even though I had the credit, just for an easy A.
Okay, good. Megan, anything different to add, or?
Not so much different. I definitely was going to say I took AP Calculus in high school, and some people choose to take the credit so that way they don't take Calc 1, or if they're lucky they get out of both semesters. But for me, I saw it as an easy opportunity, a good refresher before I would jump into organic chemistry and that second semester biology, instead of just not taking anything at all. I think AP Chem, though you're not able to use the credit in the pharmacy program, I think really helped me as a student, because I had a great teacher in high school who really pushed me and really forced me to learn the material and understand it, made chemistry here a lot easier. And so even though I didn't get credit for it when I took it, it was a lot easier than some of my fellow students who didn't have the chance to take an AP, whether they didn't have the opportunity to at their school, or they just chose not to. It was a lot easier and more enjoyable of a course for me than I think it would have been if I hadn't have taken that AP credit.
I think that's a really good point, that knowing that every student is coming from different high schools and different backgrounds, for a lot of different reasons, you either may not have had the opportunity to take an AP course, or chose not to, or it just didn't fit into your schedule, and that's fine. You can still be very successful here at Purdue and in the pharmacy program if you haven't had a lot of AP courses. I think the students that have not had maybe an AP calculus or an AP chemistry course, I think you just have to maybe walk in knowing I'm probably going to have to work a little bit harder than my friends that did have that AP course. But it all kind of evens out after that first semester, and when everybody is in the second semester going into organic chemistry and Calc 2 and Biology 2. By that point, everybody's kind of on the same page and kind of evened out, and everybody's kind of studying the same thing at that point. So I think it's certainly worth noting you want to take as many hard courses as you can, because it does pay off. It does pay dividends at the college level. So great discussion. Our next question is, can you explain the PharmD PhD joint degree or joint program? I'm not sure if anybody here feels comfortable answering that question, and if you don't, that's fine. I can speak to it a little bit. So is that what you'd like for me to do? Yes, pass it off to me. So Purdue is very fortunate, the College of Pharmacy is very fortunate that we do have a joint program, PharmD PhD program, and if this is something that a student is interested in, it's a matter of talking to your advisor about getting that process started. And that begins in about the second or third professional year of the pharmacy program, where you would start working on those PhD credits and you would start working on the PhD coursework. And then once a student is in the fourth professional year and out on those rotations would actually be research-based and starting your research project, working towards your PhD. So everybody's program is a little bit different, and their PhD work is a little bit different, but you can usually shave maybe a year or a year and a half off of that PhD program when you do it combined and when you do it joint. So that is a really nice option that we have, and we've got faculty members that work with our students that are interested in that PharmD PhD joint program. So. All right. Another question. Can pre-pharmacy students be a part of the Purdue Honors College and still finish in 2 years? Is it difficult to balance both? Is anybody in the Honors College? Okay, all right. All right, so I guess I'll answer that one too. Unless you've got any friends that are doing the honors program, Honors College? Can't think of any? Okay, all right.
I had a couple friends that did the Honors College starting out. Some stuck with it, some didn't. I think it's challenging to do the honors program and the pre-pharmacy program at the same time, but it's definitely doable. Part of the honors program is taking a seminar class each semester of the freshman year. It's just in the evening, you do a community project. It's pretty laid back. In addition to that, for the Honors College, you have to take a certain number of honors credits. That could be through taking specific honors classes on happiness and whatnot, or it could be through contracting with a course that you're already taking. You can talk to a professor about maybe doing an extra project or something in order to make it an honors course. I have some friends that are still working towards their Honors College credits, but especially once you get into the pharmacy program, there's just not a lot of time anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, okay. Yes, and so Annie, I would absolutely agree with you that we do have a number of students that are in different phases of the honors program. But to clarify this student's question, you don't have to finish the honors requirements in pre-pharmacy. And maybe that's where we actually have an advantage, where most students have to complete those 24 credits of honors in 4 years or 8 semesters. We get to do it technically over the course of 6 years. So it is spread out a little bit from that standpoint. So that, I think, does give our students a little bit of an advantage. But you're right, the honors courses are some really interesting topics and courses and topics that you might not get to enroll in otherwise. I was just looking at that list just yesterday or today that came out for the fall semester, and one of the courses is on the history of the bicycle. So how has the bicycle influenced our development in the industrial world and how has the bicycle helped women in getting jobs, and then there's a little bit of an engineering bent on the materials that it takes to make a bicycle. So they're going to spend an entire semester on talking about how the bicycle has kind of transformed the modern world. So that, I think, is really, really interesting. Might not have anything to do with pharmacy, but it's something just kind of interesting to learn on the side. So lots of things. And then Annie, you also mentioned about contracting with a course, and that's another way that students can complete those requirements is by being in one of the courses that you're already in. And let's say biochemistry as an example, you can work with that professor and contract with him to do that extra project, or read some journal articles and write a paper, those sorts of things, to dive a little bit deeper into that topic and into that subject matter to make it an honors course. But all students, to complete those honors requirements, have to complete 24 hours of honors credit, and then there's an honors thesis at the end. So those are those requirements. But again, I think our students have that advantage of completing it over the course of 6 years rather than 4 years. So, all right. Anything else to add about the honors program? Okay. All right. All right. Another question. What is the most unique thing about Purdue's pharmacy program? I'm currently stuck between Purdue and another one, and another pharmacy school. So this is a great question. Why did you choose Purdue? What made you choose Purdue over maybe some of the other pharmacy schools that you were considering?
Well, for me, going into pre-pharmacy, for me it was convenient since it was very close. But looking away, I think just to me the atmosphere. One of the things about Purdue is I really liked the atmosphere of it. I really liked, even before, while I was in high school, I took a couple tours of campus, even though it was so close. And just some of the students around here, some of the people here, I really liked, really just that atmosphere of everyone that's here. Everyone's very friendly, and so that's what really made me want to say Purdue is for me.
Okay, great.
I was looking for an out-of-state experience, so I wanted to find a nationally recognized university just so that I could move anywhere in the country and still say, I have this Purdue degree. Beyond that, I liked Purdue because of the family feel. When I visited campus, it felt like home. It was just right, it clicked.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what both of my two fellow panelists have already said, but Purdue felt like home to me. Both my parents went to Purdue, so I've been on campus since I was really young, but Purdue as a whole, in addition to Purdue Pharmacy, it truly is a family. The network of alumni truly across the country is so extensive that you can leave Indiana and go anywhere and your degree is recognized, and I guarantee you're going to run into someone randomly from Purdue or that has family that went to Purdue. It is such just an extensive network, and every alumni that I've ever interacted with, I kid you not, has always been so receptive. If you have any questions about whatever area of pharmacy they work in, or if you're ever in the area, to let them know. It just truly was a feel that I didn't get from other pharmacy schools when I visited there. Purdue is a big campus, but when you're in the College of Pharmacy, you are within your own family on campus, and then you get the benefits of it being a big campus. There's so many things to do outside the College of Pharmacy that you can stay a very well-rounded student while still focusing on pharmacy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. So talk a little bit more about your interaction with the faculty. Do they know who you are? Do they interact with you outside of class? Tell us a little bit more about the faculty.
So actually, for right now, for organic chemistry, I meet a lot with the office hours to get help with some of the topics I'm struggling with. Is where I really get to meet my professor. That's where he knows me and I know him. So that's where I usually I've met most of my professors through the office hours, is getting help on some of the topics I'm struggling with, and that's just really where I've met my professors. So
great.
I'd echo that. Going to office hours is great for getting to know your professors. That's where you get your letter of recommendation, and also the help you need on classwork. A lot of our professors have open office hours. They just have an open door policy. If they're in there, come in, say hi. even if you just want to chat about just anything, about Purdue, not even about pharmacy. A lot of our professors are super open to that. And we have a lot of clinical faculty that are in Indianapolis practicing, and they're always open to having a phone conversation about their career. I've been able to do that with a couple of professors. They're just really willing to help you out.
Yeah, and I think something that's a little different from high school compared to, especially with here at the College of Pharmacy, is how involved the professors are in a lot of the student organizations here. Some of them are members themselves, whereas others are advisors for the organizations. And I think that has allowed me to develop relationships with some of our professors outside of just the classroom. And I do feel like a lot of them know us. A lot of them study our composite, so that way before class they have an idea of kind of who's going to be in the class and, oh, have I seen this person before, or meeting new faces. So they do take the time to really get to know us. I think it was Dr. Barker who would try and memorize certain sections of the classroom, and that way he'd remember everyone's name. That was his goal by the end of the semester. So just knowing that professors took the time to really get to know us, then outside of the classroom, get to know us as individuals and our stories was really awesome, and it made me feel like I had made the right decision with Purdue.
Great. We've got another question. And I think we can kind of divide this question up between pre-pharmacy and professional school. How much time do you spend outside of class studying and doing homework? Maybe it changes, maybe there's more studying and homework between pre-pharmacy and PharmD. I'm not too sure. But Ernie, start off by telling us how much you're studying, and then why don't you also kind of talk a little bit about what has that transition from high school to college been like? Has it been a big change? Has there been a big difference in the amount of studying that you have to do?
I think yes. For me, yes. The first semester, I maybe didn't study as much as I should have the first semester, and so my grades suffered a little bit, but then you can kind of catch yourself up, and then you know that you have to work a lot more than you did in high school. You have to. Right now, even with less credit hours my second semester, I'm working a lot harder than I was my first semester just because the classes do get increasingly difficult. It all builds on top of itself. And so getting help, like I said, with the office hours, I'm constantly at office hours. Some of the classes offer SI, so I go to those often, almost every day. And so I do spend a lot more time trying to get help because I know that it'll benefit me. It definitely makes a difference when you're going to those office hours and the SI sessions.
Okay. If you had to quantify it, about how many hours are you studying either per week or per day outside of class?
Per day, I would say it varies, but 3 to 4 hours with the office hours and maybe the SI sessions.
Okay.
And so per week, including maybe the weekends, it could be 15, 20 hours that you spend either just studying as in reading, maybe some of the material, just rereading or rewatching some of the lectures. So it's very important because it does help.
Okay. All right, good. And our professional program students?
Well, I just study until I get the job done. I probably study at least an hour for every hour I'm in class, so that's probably at least 4 hours a day. That's reviewing drug charts and making outlines and whatnot, reading textbooks, as you said. But I feel like I'm not working any harder than I did in high school just because I took a challenging high school curriculum. And I think pre-pharmacy to pharmacy, I'm working just as hard. It's just there's been a change in what I'm focusing on, I guess. I'm focusing more on my integrated pharmacotherapy class because that's the meat and potatoes of the pharmacy program. What about you?
For me, I would say I am definitely studying harder than I did in high school. I did challenge myself in high school, but for me, I was one of those students that didn't have to study that hard, and I could get by with A's, maybe a few B's here and there, and I was fine with that. And so coming into pre-pharmacy, I realized quickly that you have to change your methods. And then even going to the PharmD program, I probably study close to 2 to 3 hours a day, and that's if I can get it in. For me, I'm so involved in organizations and kind of outside of school itself. I'm working on the weekends at my hospital back home, and so you learn to balance a whole new set of responsibilities compared to high school and then into pre-farm and then to the Pharm D program. But there's some weekends that I'll study up to 13 hours in a day. And so it really varies depending on my schedule and when I can get things in. But it is truly, I think you had mentioned it earlier about time management and how important that is in figuring out how to prioritize and get things done. And you learn to study, if you only have an hour, you learn to study effectively in that hour compared to the 5 hours that you have the next day. And so unfortunately, I don't think I have a perfect number for how much I study, but it has increased drastically from high school, but I've also learned to prioritize a lot better.
Well, and yes, I think you're exactly right that you have to make the best use of your time. But then I also hear students say again and again that each year they learn to study smarter, not necessarily harder. And so when you say, I've only got an hour to study, I'm going to make the most use of that time and study as effectively as I can, even though I might have 5 hours to study the next day, but I'm going to cram in as much as I can in that 1 hour to make the best use of my time. So I do think that you get better and more precise with your studying as time goes on. So we've got a few questions coming in now. And so Ernie, this question is more geared towards you. How large are the freshman classes on average? So talk about the difference between a math class versus, say, a biology or chemistry lecture.
So my math classes were very small. They were maybe 30 to 35 students in a classroom. It was more like high school is what it was. It's really how that was. But going with biology or chemistry, my first semester, the classes, I believe my chemistry class had 400-ish students. I mean, I know it wasn't just pre-pharmacy. There were some other students from other majors there, but that's very different from high school because, if you're not there, it's on you. It really is when you're there. So, and it's just different because, in high school I might have asked. It was easy for me to talk to my professors at first, but then here, with these large classrooms, it was a little intimidating. You just kind of get used to it because this biology is the same way. There's maybe 200-ish students in one lecture hall as well. So they're very large. It's very different from high school, but you quickly get used to it.
Okay. All right. Good. Follow-up question. Do you have any tips for studying? And also, we should probably explain what SI is and explain, kind of talk about what supplemental instruction is. So does anybody have any studying tips, especially, again, kind of thinking about transitioning from high school to college? What did you learn that kind of worked for you?
For me, I believe, even though studying is important, sometimes just taking that little breaks in between, or an hour break maybe to do something completely different, school related, something you like to do. Maybe it could just be watching TV. I think that makes me study effectively because it gets my mind off of schoolwork, doing something completely different, and then I can come back with maybe more energy, or I can come more focused to do the task that I'm wanting to do.
Okay. Anybody else?
My best tip is make friends, people in your classes, form study groups. That's the best way to learn, I think. Learning the material, teaching it to someone else is the best way to learn material, I think, for me. And then just always having someone to ask for help on homework, or I don't understand this topic that we've studied today. Can you explain it to me? It's really great being able to bounce off ideas with your peers.
Yeah, I think to be open-minded about trying different study habits. In high school, I was very much study by myself, read the teacher's notes, and just study that way. And I learned that in college it just wasn't working for me. And so I work in groups. I study with actually a girl that I have gone to school with since elementary school, but we are ironically in the same class now with pharmacy. And so we study together. And I've also learned that I'm a very visual learner. And so I'll rewrite out the professor's notes in more of a diagram form or a drawing that flows better, and that helps me remember it more than just reading through the notes over and over again. So it is a little bit more work, but I've learned that I retain things better doing it that way.
And getting back to that study smarter, not harder, absolutely. And then to follow up, SI, or supplemental instruction, is peer-led instruction. It's not tutoring per se as much as it is reviewing the material that was covered in lecture that day. So these student SI leaders will actually attend lecture, whether it's biology or chemistry or calculus, and then later that evening or afternoon, we'll cover material that was discussed in class and maybe present it a different way, or come up with some sort of a little game to help you remember certain topics or certain processes. So that's a really interesting way to also learn the material, is by other students who have taken the class before and done well in the course and can maybe explain it to you in a different way that was maybe not presented that way in class. So, okay, another question. Are there any dorms or residence halls that pharmacy students mainly live in? So let's talk a little bit about residence halls, and then let's talk about learning communities. Does anybody want to talk about that?
Sure. So when I was a freshman, I was in the pre-pharmacy learning community. You get to live on a floor entirely made of pre-pharmacy girls or boys. And your RA is a professional pharmacy student, so they have a bunch of experience. And they plan activities that are geared towards pharmacy, like being able to do a compounding lab with one of our professors, or learning how to dress professionally. But then also just being able to connect with other pre-pharmacy peers, seeing them outside of class was really cool. Being able to run down the hall for help on homework was great. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I actually was not a part of the learning community, so I guess I'm coming from a different view. I chose not to do a learning community and chose to kind of be out there with all the rest of the freshmen, just because I knew that hypothetically, if I were to get into the pharmacy program with all these fellow pre-pharmacy students, I'd be seeing them for the next 4+ years of my life. And so I didn't want to get sick of them quite yet. And so for me, this really allowed me to branch out, meet a lot of people that were in different majors. A lot of them ended up being even healthcare related, which was awesome to see a different perspective. But I chose not to, and I don't regret it. I think for me, I still was able to develop those relationships within my pharmacy class. I do know people that did the learning community and got the same thing that Annie did, is just really great friendships, those resources that were right down the hall from you. So there are benefits. For me, I just chose not to, and it really worked out. I don't feel like I missed out on anything.
Yeah, and I would say it really comes down to personal preference and what is going to be the best fit for you. So great. Another question that has come in, and this is kind of a two-part question. Can anybody talk about research? Is anybody doing any research outside of the classroom, and then study abroad or experiences outside of campus? So, Megan, are you going to be able to answer both of those questions?
I might be able to answer
Okay.
both of them.
Right.
So to begin off with research, so Purdue is a huge research institution, and that does not fall short within the College of Pharmacy. Really, all you have to do is approach a professor, email them, see them in class, and ask, hey, do you have any research opportunities? And you will be able to find one easily. I'm currently doing research with Dr. Kimberly Plake here, and it's actually more of a social and behavioral sciences research. And so we're focusing on the professional and personal well-being of some of the College of Pharmacy students, specifically in our organization of APHA-ASP, which is that American Pharmacists Association student chapter. And so it's been really interesting. I get to implement different activities for us to work on, different events, and I'm kind of researching the impact that those have and seeing where our students fall short, so that way in the future we can focus and hone in more on those weaknesses to make our graduates even stronger and our well-being even a little bit better. But in terms of research, that's what I have experience with. And then in terms of study abroad, Purdue offers quite a few when you do your 4th professional year or 6th year total to do rotations abroad, which are really unique opportunities. We have opportunities in England, we have opportunities in Africa, we have opportunities even within the United States still, but even up in Alaska, and just really cool areas that you can go into and explore while you're also being able to practice pharmacy. And so I will be traveling to Eldoret, Kenya in March and April of 2018 for a 8-week stint to practice during my last 2 months of rotation.
And can you talk a little bit about what that rotation is going to entail? It's a global health rotation, right?
It is, and so we will be working at the Moy Referral Hospital in Eldoret, and basically at this location there's students from Purdue, there's IU medical students, there's students from Duke and Notre Dame and a variety of other institutions in the United States that go over to work. And we are in a teaching hospital, so we are doing what really pharmacists do in any hospital in America, where we're going on rounds, we're treating patients, helping in the diagnosis and of their conditions, and really working hands-on with that healthcare team. And so I'm going to be seeing a lot of conditions that aren't as common in the United States, which will really challenge me clinically. And I'm very excited. I'm nervous, but I think it's going to make me a much stronger professional once I graduate.
Great. So in addition to those opportunities abroad in that fourth professional year, pharmacy students can also study abroad in those pre-pharmacy years or even in the professional years, but primarily during the summer, because I think we all agree that the pharmacy curriculum is pretty structured, pretty rigid, and so because so many of the pharmacy courses are either offered in the fall or in the spring, probably about the best time for students to study abroad is in the summertime. But I've had many students have a really great immersion experience in 8 or 10 weeks over the course of the summer. The great thing about the pharmacy program, and this may not sound great at first, but because we don't have a specific pharmacy study abroad program, that means that students can go anywhere in the world. They can choose any study abroad program that fits their need or fits whatever language that they might be looking to speak and learn, or region of a particular country, so they can go just about anywhere. And then those credits that they take will come in as elective credit. So you really do, when it comes to studying abroad, the entire world is at your fingertips. And so that makes it really exciting. But my gosh, if I could send all of my students to study abroad, I would, because it's like what you said, Megan, it's going to make you a better healthcare practitioner on the back end. So. We are just about wrapping up our time here. Does anybody want to provide some last-minute words of advice? We've got a lot of students who are kind of starting to narrow down their college choices, and they're going to have to be making those choices and thinking about what's going to be that great fit for them. Does anybody want to give some last-minute pieces of advice or encourage them to come and visit campus this spring?
I think it would be to not be afraid to try new things. That'll just be, I think, if you try something new that you've never done before, or maybe you're scared to do, I think that'll give you the best results, I think, is just trying new things.
Great.
I'd agree with Ernie. I think being open to new experiences is the best thing you do. Be open to new paths in pharmacy, be open to this new campus. There's so many opportunities out there if you're willing to try.
Yeah, I really couldn't say it much better than they have already done. But Purdue truly, if you give it a shot and you come on campus, you will feel that family feel that I think all of us kind of mentioned before. Whether you come into the College of Pharmacy, the building itself, or you're in the Purdue Memorial Union, there's something about this campus that it's a magnet. It will just attract you to it. And then it's even better because our pharmacy program is as great as it is. So you really can't go wrong being a Boilermaker.
Wonderful. And on that, I think we will wrap it up. If you have any more questions, feel free to email the College of Pharmacy at pharmacy-oss@purdue.edu, and I will be happy to respond to those questions and happy to answer any questions or concerns that you have. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you join us again on Thursday night. We will be holding another chat session. Thank you. Have a good evening.